Jai Hind students, welcome to my YouTube channel. Students, you need to study like there's no tomorrow because if you keep putting off your studies for tomorrow, then you will probably be too late. So, students, in order to succeed, in order to score good grades, you need to study consistently. And always remember, enjoy your studies. Do not take any stress while studying. With that positive note, students, let's begin today's session. Today, we will revise the important topic of electromagnetic induction. Students, in the previous session, we have discussed various experiments which were performed by Michael Faraday. And then we have discussed the conclusions as well. What we have discussed in those experiments and what we have concluded in those experiments was whenever there's a change in the magnetic field or whenever there's a change in the magnetic flux linked with a coil, then an induced current is produced in the coil. This phenomena of production of induced current in a coil whenever there's a change in the magnetic field or magnetic flux linked with the coil is known as electromagnetic induction, right? So here I have written the definition of electromagnetic induction. Electromagnetic induction is the phenomena of producing induced current or induced EMF or induced voltage in a closed circuit or coil due to the change in the magnetic field in the circuit or a closed coil. So this phenomena is known as electromagnetic induction, right? And remember students, this induced current or induced voltage lasts in the coil as long as the magnetic field or the magnetic flux linked with the coil keeps changing with time. And through those various experiments which we have discussed, we can easily conclude on the factors on which the induced current depends. Students, as you remember, the magnitude of the induced current, it does depend upon the relative motion between the coil and the source of the magnetic field. Then it does also depend upon the time rate change in the magnetic field or the magnetic flux, right? So let us discuss the factors on which the induced current depends. First is students, as we have discussed in the earlier session also, it depends upon the speed with which the magnet moves towards the coil, right? So it depends upon the speed with which the magnet moves towards the coil. If the magnet moves very quickly, then large induced current is produced in the closed coil. Suppose this is the coil, students, and this magnet is made to come closer towards this coil, right? If the relative motion is made faster, if the magnet is brought quickly to the coil, then this galvanometer will show large deflection, indicating the production of large induced current. Clear? So it does depend upon the speed with which the magnet is moved towards the coil or away from the coil, right? So it depends upon the relative motion between the source of the magnetic field and the coil. Here I must mention that even if the magnet is at rest and the coil is moved towards the stationary magnet, then also the induced current will be produced. So it is immaterial whether the magnet is moved towards the stationary coil or the coil is moved towards the stationary magnet. Both are the same cases. In both the cases, the induced current will get produced, right? So that is why it is more appropriate to make use of the statement relative motion. So induced current, it depends upon the relative motion between the bar magnet, which is the source of the magnetic field, and the coil. The faster the relative motion, the more is the current induced in the coil. And the slower the relative motion, the smaller is the induced current in the coil, right? So it does depend upon the relative motion with which the magnet is moved towards or is moved away from the coil. Second is students, it also depends upon the strength of the magnet. It depends upon the strength of the magnet. Now, in case a magnet, strong magnet is brought closer or it is moved away from the coil, then again it is found that the galvanometer shows much more appreciable deflection. So a strong magnet moved towards or away from the closed coil produced a large induced current, right? So it does depend upon the strength of the magnet. And in case we are making use of an electromagnet instead of a permanent magnet, then we can change the strength of the magnetic field by increasing or decreasing the current flowing through the coil, isn't it? If the current through the coil is increased, then the magnetic field will increase. If the current through the coil is decreased, then the magnetic field due to that coil will also get decreased, right? So the induced current which get produced in a coil, it also does depend upon the strength of the magnet. Third is, students, it naturally depends upon the number of turns in the coil. If the coil has large number of turns, then it is found that the induced current produced is large. Large induced current is produced in that case. So it also depends upon the number of turns in the coil. The number of turns in the coil. So these are the factors on which the induced current depends, right? Now let us discuss the case, these three various cases, right? Suppose this is a coil of insulated copper wire and it is connected to a galvanometer. Students, galvanometer is an electric device which is used to detect the current. Normally the pointer of the galvanometer, when no current is passed through, it is like this. It is its mean position. And as soon as the current is made to pass through the circuit, then the galvanometer connected in this circuit, its pointer will show deflection either towards right or it may show deflection towards left, depending upon the direction of the flow of current. Clear? So galvanometer is a sensitive device which is used to detect the current flowing through the circuit. So we have considered a coil, copper wire coil, and it is connected to a galvanometer. Now we will discuss what will happen if a bar magnet is pushed into the coil. Second case is when the bar magnet is withdrawn from inside the coil, means it is taken away from the coil. And third case is the bar magnet is held stationary. It is held stationary inside the coil. So we'll discuss all the three cases one by one. In the first case, students, when the magnet is brought or it is pushed into the coil, then induced current flows through the coil due to the phenomenon of electromagnetic induction. Now when the magnet is brought closer, then the magnetic field will get changed. The magnetic field linked to the coil will change, will increase. And according to the phenomenon of electromagnetic induction, whenever there's a change in the magnetic field in the circuit or a closed coil, then induced current is produced, right? So on bringing the magnet closer towards the coil, induced current will get established. And suppose the galvanometer showed deflection along this direction, right? Now in the second case, students, when the magnet is withdrawn from inside the coil or it is moved away from the coil, then what happens is, again the magnetic field linked with this coil will start decreasing. That is, it will change. So again, due to the phenomenon of electromagnetic induction, an induced current will get produced in the coil. But in this case, the direction of the induced current is found to be opposite to that in the previous case. So now the galvanometer will tend to give deflection in the opposite direction. So on moving the magnet closer towards the coil, if the pointer of the galvanometer shows deflection towards right, then on withdrawing the magnet from the coil, the galvanometer shows deflection in the opposite direction, indicating that in both the cases the induced current is produced in the coil, but it is in opposite direction, right? Here, on bringing the magnet closer to the coil, the magnetic field linked with the coil increases. Here, on withdrawing the bar magnet from the coil, the magnetic field linked with the coil decreases. So in both the cases, the magnetic field linked with the coil changes. But in the first case, the magnetic field increases. In the second case, the magnetic field decreases.
Therefore, the induced current so produced in the coil in both the cases must be in the opposite direction. And this is validated by the deflection in the pointer of the galvanometer, which shows deflection in one case towards right and in the other case it shows deflection towards left. Right? Now let's discuss the third case, students. In this case, when the magnet is held stationary, so the relative motion becomes zero. Both the coil and the magnet will be at rest. So obviously there won't be any magnetic field. There won't be any change in the magnetic field in the coil. The magnetic field linked with the coil will be constant. There won't be any change. And if there is no change in the magnetic field linked with the coil, no current will get induced. So in this case, the galvanometer will show zero deflection. So it will remain like this only. So in this case, due to the fact that the magnetic field do not change in the absence of any relative motion between the magnet and the coil, here induced current is not produced. So the galvanometer shows zero deflection over here. Right? So what we have discussed is the induced current is produced in the coil only when there's a change in the magnetic field linked with the coil. Right? Students, we have discussed how the current get induced in a coil whenever there's a change in the magnetic field linked or associated with the coil. Now students, the direction of the induced current so produced in the coil is given by Fleming's right hand rule. Yes, it's given by Fleming's right hand rule. This is my right hand, right? This is the thumb. This is the first finger or the forefinger. And this is my central finger or the middle finger. So what this rule states is that stretch the thumb, the first finger or the forefinger and the central finger of your right hand such that they all are perpendicular to each other. What's the angle between these two? It's 90 degree. The angle between these two is also 90 degree. The angle between these two fingers must also be 90 degree. So Fleming's right hand rule states that stretch the thumb, the forefinger and the central finger of your right hand such that they are mutually perpendicular to each other. Right? In that case, if the thumb represents the direction of motion of the conductor, that is represented by capital letter M. I repeat, if the thumb represents the direction of motion of the conductor, the forefinger, it represents the direction of the magnetic field. Then the central finger or the middle finger of the right hand will represent the direction of the induced current so produced in the coil. Clear, students? So again I repeat, Fleming's right hand rule states that stretch the right hand such that the first finger, this is the first finger or the forefinger, the central finger and the thumb are mutually perpendicular to each other. In that case, if the first finger points along the direction of the magnetic field and the thumb points along the direction of the motion of the conductor represented by M, right? Then the direction of the induced current is given by the direction of the central finger, that is represented by I. So this is the rule, students, right? MBI. Now remember, till now we have discussed, this was the third rule which we have discussed. One is we have discussed a right hand thumb rule, isn't it? This rule is used to determine the direction of the magnetic field due to a current carrying conductor. This rule states that if the current is flowing along the direction in which the thumb points, then the direction in which the rest of the fingers curl, that gives the direction of the magnetic field. This is right hand thumb rule. Then students, we have used Fleming's left hand rule, right? FBI. This rule is used to determine the direction of the magnetic force experienced by a current carrying conductor which is under the influence of perpendicular magnetic field. This is the direction of the magnetic field. This is the direction of the flow of the current through the conductor. Then the thumb will point towards the direction of the magnetic force. This is Fleming's left hand rule, FBI. It is used to find out the direction of magnetic force experienced by a current carrying conductor under the influence of perpendicular magnetic field. And now what we are discussing is Fleming's right hand rule. This rule is used to determine the direction of induced current so produced in the coil. In this case, we are supposed to stretch the thumb, the forefinger or the first finger and the central finger such that they are mutually perpendicular to each other. In that case, if the first finger represents the direction of the magnetic field, the thumb represents the direction of the motion of the conductor, then the central finger or the middle finger will represent the direction of the induced current so produced in the coil. Clear, students? Students, this is the statement of Fleming's right hand rule, right, which we have just now discussed. Now let me represent this rule diagrammatically. Suppose this is the right hand and these are the three fingers. This is the thumb, this is the forefinger or the first finger, and suppose this is the central finger. So all these three fingers are to be stretched such that they are mutually perpendicular to each other. They all are perpendicular to each other. They all are perpendicular to each other, right? So stretch the right hand such that the first finger, the central finger and the thumb are perpendicular to each other. Then if the first finger, this is the first finger, if the first finger points along the direction of the magnetic field, it points along the direction of the magnetic field represented by B. Magnetic field is represented by B, right? And the thumb points along the direction of motion of the conductor. It is represented by capital letter M, motion of the conductor. Then in that case, students, the direction of the induced current is given by the direction of the central finger. This is the direction of the central finger. So this will give us the direction of the induced current. Induced current, I am representing it by small letter I. So this is motion, magnetic field and the induced current, right? This is motion. B stands for magnetic field and I, it stands for induced current. So you can remember the rule by using this particular diagram, right? MBI. M stands for motion of the conductor, B stands for the magnetic field and I stands for the induced current. Friends, let us discuss a numerical in which we'll be making use of Fleming's right hand rule, right? Okay, the question is, this is the figure and this is the region of uniform magnetic field, right? So the figure shows a planar rectangular loop, A, B, C, D. It's a planar rectangular loop, right? And it is in the region of magnetic field which is directed inwards, perpendicular to the plane of the paper. This is the plane of the paper and cross. This cross sign indicates that it's a region of uniform magnetic field in which the magnetic field is directed perpendicular to the plane of the paper and directed inwards like this. It's directed inwards, right? So magnetic field is directed inwards like this, perpendicular to the plane of the paper and directed inwards. So this cross, the symbol cross represents the magnetic field which is directed inwards in this region. Now students, this planar rectangular loop is moved away. It is moving out, right? So what will be the direction of the induced current in the loop? First and foremost, we'll discuss why the induced current will get induced in the rectangular loop ABCD, right? It is because, students, as the loop is moved out of the region of magnetic field, then the magnetic field linked with this loop, rectangular loop, will decrease, right? So whenever there's a change in the magnetic field linked with the loop or with the closed coil, then as per the phenomenon of electromagnetic induction, an induced current get produced in the coil. Therefore, definitely, as the rectangular plane loop is moved out of the region of magnetic field, the induced current will get produced, right? Now let's find out the direction of the induced current. Now look, students, we need to find out the direction of the induced current, whether it's flowing from A to B or B to A, whether it's flowing in the clockwise direction in the loop or it is flowing in the anti-clockwise. So for that, what is the motion? What is the direction of motion of this loop? It's along this direction. This is the direction of It is taken out of the magnetic field, right? So this is the direction of motion of the conductor. This is M, which stands for motion, direction of motion of the conductor. And magnetic field, students, it's in the inward direction. Magnetic field is directed inwards, right? So let's make use of this particular rule. M, it stands for motion. So it's from left to right. B stands for magnetic field. It's in the downward direction like this. Isn't it, students? So look, thumb, it is directed from left to right. That is the direction along which this rectangular plane coil is moved. Isn't it? The forefinger or the first finger that represents the direction of the magnetic field, it is directed inwards like this. So the central finger, students, this one, the central finger, it is pointing, the central finger, this is the central finger, it is pointing in the direction from A to B, isn't it? The central finger points along the direction of the induced current and it is pointing in the direction from A to B. So applying Fleming's right hand rule, we can safely conclude that in the rectangular loop ABCD, the induced current, it must be flowing along this direction. That is, in this case, it will be in the clockwise direction. Clear? So this is how Fleming's right hand rule can be used. Now students, as an assignment, do try to find out the direction of the induced current in the same loop when it is made to come into the region of the magnetic field. When it is moved in a direction into the region of the magnetic field. That is, if its direction of motion get reversed. So then try to use this rule of Fleming's right hand rule and find out the direction of the induced current in the loop, right? So I hope students you have understood the concepts involved and do practice as many conceptual questions, as many numericals as possible. Physics, I have always maintained, students, it is synonymous with numericals. The more you practice, the more confident you will be in facing any questions related to my subject, right? So that's it for this particular session. Do join me in my next lecture. Till then, be happy, be safe, and do take very good care of yourself. Thank you.